Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, you find a way to lose. Also in boxing, you can find yourself in Saudi Arabia making the most money you've ever made in your life, and in one fight making more money in Saudi Arabia than you probably would have made in your whole career fighting anywhere else. But the real concern for some people is this. Now, I was watching a couple, because at night when my kids go to sleep, that's when I have time to myself, you know what I'm saying? And I'll watch a little snippet of, boxing interviews or different things about boxing on the internet. It's not always, I don't watch other content creators. I don't. But if it's something relating to boxing, and when I say that, it could be about what I'm about to talk about now. That isn't really talking about fighters specifically, but it does kind of affect. It can affect boxing. But I came across like a little 3-minute clip where they were talking about the money in Saudi Arabia and how they're trying to bring possibly a basketball league over there, and they already have, gotten involved with boxing, soccer, and, a couple other sports that I've talked about on this channel before. But the thing that they said that got my attention, where they said black athletes, especially now with the boxers, right? They were saying that they need to be aware going over there to Saudi Arabia and fighting. And what they were saying is, with these black fighters going over there, that if they're not performing, right, when it comes to boxing, let's say they sound like a now these guys, of course, now they didn't know what the hell they were talking about, but I still thought it was interesting because there's a lot of people who think like this. But what he was saying is, if these guys sign a 3-fight contract and in the first fight they don't perform, what they were saying is, over there in Saudi Arabia, they don't feel the Saudis are going to give a damn about you signing a contract for 3 fights to make, let's say, $5-10 million a fight. If they feel you didn't perform, they'll just pack you up and send you back home, and that contract is null and void. They don't care what you signed. And what they were saying is that there are a lot of the concern for a lot of the black fighters. Now, this is where they kind of lost me, is that everybody wants to keep it real and go over there, and they're not gonna want to be done wrong. And if they misstep, especially when they don't really understand the culture and the type of people they're dealing with. Now, what they were saying is that, they were talking about how people over there are killers in Saudi Arabia. And, I don't agree with that. But I do think they make a point where they talk about attitude. I've always talked about attitude, and I've even talked about on this channel about playing your cards right. And a briefing I used to give: C for communication, A for attitude, R for respect, another R for responsibility, and D for discipline. Play your card right. And attitude has a lot to do with, I think, the outcome of situations for people. But when he was saying that, I was like, you know what? I could only imagine with Big Baby Miller and him going over there, and of course he shoved the bar and he was arguing with people. But I wonder if he would have taken it a step further, and maybe, in the midst of trying to get to the bar and shoving them, what if he would have accidentally, knocked down Turkey al-Sheikh? Because now, all hell gonna hit the fan. And what they were saying is, black athletes, in particular fighters, go over there, and some shit happened. They're saying they felt that no one here stateside is going to come over there and start a war over a black athlete. No one's going to come over there and try to fight for the release of a black athlete. Once you go over there and you get caught up in that judicial system, no one's basically going to give a damn about the black boxer, the black athlete. And I said, I do think this, right? I think anyone who goes over to another country, first and foremost, you got to understand the laws, you got to understand the culture, and number three is you got to be on your best behavior. Now, when I watch different things happening in countries, people keep talking about Saudi Arabia. You look at what's going on, like in Indonesia. They got some crazy laws out there. But, you can't come out there messing around with drugs and, alcohol and, wanting to mistreat people, man. Like, they're not tolerating that. And if you watch a documentary on some of that stuff, especially in those countries, those Islamic territories, man, they're not playing. And race don't have shit to do with it. So the guys who I was listening to this clip, I'm like, I kind of get what you're saying. We know that the whole thing with the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of the concerns here in the United States, not just here, but particularly here, man, and sometimes may not seem like a fair shake is given when it comes to the judicial system, and a lot of times when it comes to black people being innocent and still finding themselves ended up in behind bars or getting killed and stuff like that. But I'm not so sure that we could take that argument over to Saudi Arabia, because I lived over there for a while, and I've talked about that. And I'm going to tell you that the atmosphere is different. There's nobody running around there with no attitude, nobody running around there staring you down, nobody being rude. You understand what I'm telling you? Ain't nobody driving on the road blasting no music. There's nobody out there with no Trump flag, nobody with no Black Lives Matter flag. Ain't none of that shit you see here in the States. See, people who start talking about, people who need to be aware and be shouldn't go over to Saudi. And when they start talking about the race thing, that's because they've never been. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could come to anywhere in the world. If you're over there doing shit, even here stateside, in the UK, in Japan, Korea, Philippines, Germany. I've been to all these places. Nobody really stressing you, man, unless you doing something stupid. I'm not saying there aren't situations where a person can find themselves in some trouble that they're not necessarily responsible. But what I'm saying is I just don't think that those guys were, I don't think that was fair to say that black fighters shouldn't be going over to Saudi. And it made me wonder. Now, I'm sitting here talking about how, it looks like Gervonta doesn't seem to be really interested in going overseas right now to Saudi. And it made me wonder. I wonder if there's a little bit of that concern for him going over there and the legal troubles that he's had here, and if he goes over there and how he's going to be received, and maybe there's some apprehensions there, and the reason I say that is because if you got a guy like Floyd Mayweather, who's part of your team, and I think, and the reason I'm going to say what's coming is because I'm not so sure Floyd would say something different to what these 2-3 guys were saying in this little short clip that I watched, where they were saying black fighters shouldn't go to Saudi Arabia. They get in trouble. Nobody from the States, Biden and Trump and Kamala and this and that, the presidents, and no one's going to get involved. Congress, no one's getting involved to try to save them and bring their asses back to the United States. They just get caught up in that judicial system over there and end up getting beheaded. And when I hear that, I'm like, this sounds kind of ignorant. But I wouldn't be surprised if Floyd Mayweather was having them kind of conversations over there amongst themselves, whether it was joking or not. Because, Floyd was the one who was sitting here about Manny Pacquiao eating dog and stuff like that. Let me tell you something. Not every Asian person or Filipino person eats dog. You know what I mean? People be saying ignorant stuff, man. Chinese and Japanese and everybody eat dog and this and that. Let me tell you something. Other cultures are other cultures, but there may be a handful that see those things as a delicacy. But I don't think it's. I just don't agree with coming out and saying such harsh things about other cultures. Some people look at us crazy for eating beef. You know what I'm saying? And that's a fact. It's just different cultures. Then some people it's religion. Some people look at you crazy for eating pig. How many people are here like a pork chop? So I just think when a person is uneducated on something, they can become afraid, and as a result, they can start to kind of preach this kind of don't go over there to Saudi Arabia, black fighters. I would say to any fighter, irregardless of race, you shouldn't be going anywhere if you're looking to stir up shit and cause problems, especially in Saudi Arabia. Now, one thing I will say is Saudi Arabia is they have an initiative they've been pushing to try to reform the judicial system, the type of decisions that are being made, and especially investing big time to ensure they can contribute to social, economic, and tourism development. So that they're investing big time in the country and trying to get away with some of the kind of outdated ways of handling what they consider as crimes. There's some very, very harsh penalties for things. And I'm not saying they're trying to become westernized, but the younger generation is speaking. And there are some things that if they want to use boxing, if they want to use sports as a vehicle to help Saudi Arabia be viewed more as a destination opposed to a dead-end street, they're gonna have to make some serious changes, maybe even overhaul the way they do business when it comes to a couple of things. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, man. I mean, social development, especially when the young people are talking. Tourism. You want people to come watch boxing. People can't be afraid to come to your country, and you just, at the end of the day, want an overall attractiveness to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It doesn't matter what kind of events you're showcasing in this Riyadh season. I think more people are, okay, the fun sounds good, but I think more people are concerned about the laws, the well-being of visitors, and that judicial system over there. You know how many people are, like when you listen to these guys talk, even though I think they're a little uneducated, there was a little bit of ignorance there, but that just shows you the mentality of a lot of people. They really are afraid to come to the country. And they were even saying it could have been 1-2 billion. It doesn't matter how much money they're going to offer an athlete. They feel like athletes shouldn't go over there, especially with some of these guys who they have a way they're used to living, things they're used to doing. And sometimes guys will look for shortcuts and they say, okay, I know these things are illegal over here, but they'll try to skirt the system and try to get away with things. And then they'll end up going out there and getting caught, and then shit goes left. So I say all that to say this. As far as black fighters beware, I don't think race has anything to do with these boxers going over to Saudi Arabia and like they're being targeted or something. I don't think anyone in Saudi Arabia is being watched any harder than anyone else, no matter what country you're from, what race, what religion, period. You look from what I'm seeing and how people are being treated, what all the fighters are saying, it's a lovely experience. And from my experience being over there, it's just a different smile you get from people over there in Saudi Arabia. A different smile, a different handshake. It's just different. You know, I was over there for a while, man. I was in Riyadh, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time out in the civilian sector, but I was out there. But there was a lot of guys coming onto the compound where I was at. But I did get some time, you know, off the compound, and I did spend some time out there. And I'll tell you what, I was out there moving very uncomfortable. And not because anyone did anything to me, it's because I knew, like, shit, man, you make a mistake out here. You know what I mean? Like, you're in trouble. So I think those fighters who go over there, I think they have that same understanding, like, can't be out here, definitely one, you know, you can't be out here breaking the law. But you just have to make sure you get out there, you fight, get your money, and get back home without any issues. Because this ain't going to be a case of somebody going into a store trying to steal a pair of sunglasses like LeAngelo Ball, and then somehow they get them on back to the States. It's not going to work like that out there. You get caught up doing some foolishness. Don't get me wrong, Turkey al-Sheikh is, you know, is the man. But I don't think you want to put anybody in a position out there to where now they got to, you know, kind of go against, you know, their laws and everything. But I think if somebody was to do something, you know, something minor like trying to steal something, I think they just send their ass back to the States and they would never be allowed back in the country, because that brings a wrong attention onto Saudi Arabia. They don't want that. They want people to come to the country. Now, if you go out there and you kill somebody, well, that's a little bit different. But still, they don't want that. That's the last thing that they want. It's not like they're trying to lure people over there to do something wrong to them. But again, I'm not going to come out here and just totally, you know, ridicule the platform that was throwing some of this stuff out there. They're entitled to feel how they feel. But I just don't see it that way. So as far as Tank not going over there and the black fighters going over there being foolish because they're the ones, you know, who are kind of underneath the microscope, I just don't see it that way. I think anyone who chooses to go over there and do something stupid, you know, that's when someone will be put underneath the microscope. Other than that, I think if anything, if they have you underneath the microscope, it's because they want to just know where you're at and make sure that you're taken care of and make sure you get everything you need, and that, you know, when you leave, you want to come back. I don't think it's like we're going to keep our foot on their neck because we think they're going to come out here and do something egregious. I don't see that. That being said, I don't think nobody getting beheaded out there. Nobody going to Chop Square. That's not what. That's the last thing. And if somebody was going to do something stupid, I think they would turn them right over, get them out of there, turn them over to the United States. I mean, if they did something like really extreme, I don't think they would handle it. I don't think they want that headache. They have to get that person up out of there. But everyone who goes over there, I don't see anybody doing nothing stupid. From trying to drink alcohol and everything else, I just don't see it. I'm sure they're giving briefings. I'm sure when they get there, the Saudis talk to them. I'm sure they just let them know the expectations, you know, the kind of do's and don'ts, because they don't want those problems. They're not just going to have those guys come over there without trying to educate them and let them run around and just, you know, basically be in the breeze. They're not going to do that. That'll be setting them up for failure. And this isn't what the Saudis want. They want people to be set up for success and to be happy and to go back now and be a mouthpiece for Saudi Arabia, to have other people view Saudi as a destination. That being said, some people say, hey, black fighters beware. They're going to get you. I don't see it that way. But it makes for a good conversation. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.